Andrea Goeglein is with us right now, and we're going to talk about positive psychology at the movies. And this sounds very uplifting, Andrea.
Well, it is. You know me. I always come toting a little book, and of course this one is Positive Psychology at the Movies. And I decided that we've been talking about books, and we've been talking about media a lot the last year, like what could you do? And one of the greatest things that movies do for us is that we get to totally control what we see. Before we ever go there, we can read a review. We could really make a choice. How do I want to feel? What is this movie going to do for me? And then this book is actually about not only what can it do for me, but how can I see the natural strengths. You know, I have that free values survey that people can take if they go to my site. Well, one of the things that gives you is your top strengths. What this book has done is go through, 100 years of cinema and picked out where there's movies about hope, where the characters are showing hope, where the film itself is showing hope. And I chose this for two reasons. One, I had the opportunity to be on the Spiritual Cinema Circle, being interviewed on one of theirs, and spirituality happens to be one of my strengths. So it dawned on me, oh, of course, movies are an important thing.
So they chose 100 years and 100 movies.
Yes, and if you had a chance to look through and remember how some of those movies made you feel.
And if you remember growing up, I have you by a few years, but when we grew up, most movies had that undertone.
Yes.
Most movies were made for that purpose. For
a purpose of teaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for a positive influence on people who were watching them.
Correct.
We have deviated. We have gotten away from that a little
bit. But you know, there is one genre of movie that continues to do that we're importing into the U.S., and that's the Bollywood version of movies. I'm not great with a lot of singing and dancing, and you need to have a tolerance for singing and dancing when you watch a Bollywood movie. However, and they're very long, they're epics, but they always teach a value, and they always have music. I mean, it's one of the things that's coming out of India, and they are going back to that genre.
To Tanya's point, Andy Hardy, the Andy Hardy series, that was always one of our favorites, and it always taught a valuable lesson.
Very influential.
Yes. But I do agree with you that when you go to a good movie or a fun movie, you feel really good coming out of that movie.
Right. We have one of the other reasons that I wanted to do this, aside from the Spiritual Cinema Circle experience that I had, was that two movies are in the movies right now, The Blind Side and Extraordinary Measures, that from the standpoint of look what a human being is capable of doing and how you can impact your actions and how you can impact the lives of other people.
And how you can work through it.
Absolutely.
How you can work through those down times.
You know, what does courage look like? What does it look like when you lose all hope and have to go on? Cinema can show us that in really beautiful ways, and that can remind us, what is it that I have in me? What strengths do I have that I can now bring forward again?
Overall, movies imitate life, or life imitates movies?
I find them to be a little bit of I think they futurize more than we expect. They push us to see the greatest part
of human nature or technology.
Yes. And then there's the other side. They give us the greatest on one end and the worst. They show us some of the worst that we don't generally get exposed to.
But you know what? Our lives are reflected in the movies, because we sit here and talk about when the movies that we have seen and how they've impacted us. So they're obviously impacting us, whether we believe it or not.
Okay. Correct. So they impact us. We know that. So are we sending a very negative message to younger people when the first 5 minutes of film we see how many people we can kill, how many buildings we can blow up, how much action we can put in there?
Well,
from my standpoint, that's not a positive message.
Okay, but who made the choice to go and see it?
The public.
Okay, that's where the concept of positive psychology totally centers back on how do I manage my thoughts, how do I manage my language, how do I impact those around me with my thoughts, my actions, my language. That's what it's about. Going into those movies, I can make a lot of products, movies, TV shows, whatever it is. I as the viewer, need to take back responsibility, as I do in all areas of my life.
Not just the movies.
That's right. To, again, be able to be a positive. how can something external be a positive impact on me if I'm not a positive impact on me? It is about what am I choosing for my life. It's harder with kids. The excitement level, we are dealing with something, this is a newer way, all the various medias. Yes, we have new challenges, and we can use those same challenges and those same mediums to bring the good messages out.
But I do think, Andrea, that we've loosened up the moral and ethics in a big way since in the last 3 decades.
And of my opinion, if we instill that in our children from parents, instructors, teachers, education level, if we instill the same core values, then you can go see 5 buildings being blown up.
And you know,
that's a very good point.
This week, you know, music is the other part of media and we had the whole hip-hop scenario where it was a very bad impact on a group of people, and then others came up and said, we can have the same music, we just need to shift the message. Then you see someone like Beyonce being interviewed this week, and there is a person, when asked, how come you didn't, you know, go through the breakdowns and the too much success? And she said, well, when we had our spare time, we sat on the bus, our parents were with us, and we read the Bible as a group. That was institutionalizing, and the family took responsibility for the development of that child. They didn't blame the medium they were working within or external forces. They said, this is our world, and this is how we must prepare you for the world.
But it's so easy in today's world to be a Pied Piper.
Oh, yes.
Pied Piper of whatever you want. Pied Piper of fear, Pied Piper of immoral behavior. It's so easy, and people just follow that Pied Piper. So you're going back. We're going back to responsibility. It's up to me.
And you get, you know, I'm going to constantly go back to the concept of choice. We choose our thoughts. We can make good choices about the movies we see. We can honestly say, tonight I want to go out and be inspired. And what's in the movies to help me do that? You know, this week really didn't go so well. You know, like one of the movies on the list is Working Girl. Yeah, and I remembered seeing that movie. And that was what you just did. Was one of the things as I read through this list. You know, I do not recommend this book as anyone buy one because it's priced as a textbook, but it's an incredible resource for your library and for Yavapai College to be able to go. You know, what would it be like to have a party where you feature movies that inspire? You know, we're going to watch football on Sunday and have our friends over. Why not pick a great movie? And Bubba Gump is one of the ones on the list.
There's some great inspirational football movies, so you might plug a
Rudy is on the list.
Yes.
And Rudy, that man lives in Las Vegas today, and so I have the film and I've watched it. You know, the movie Miracle, the movie The Return of the Titans.
And as soon as they make a movie about Kurt Warner, I'll be the first one to watch that because very inspirational. But you're right.
Yeah. So here's an opportunity to use a great thing known as media and known as the movies and make choices that could inspire us, that could turn that tough week into something that we have the energy to go again. Seeing how someone else overcame adversity and being able to get my own engine roaring in a different way.
Well, and see, the psychology of that was put in place during World War II, many times in the movie theaters. That's why there were so many musicals, uplifting movies, because people were living through World War II.
Yeah.
They did not want that.
Correct.
When they went to the movies. They wanted to see something that drew them out.
But today that would probably be viewed as Big Brother dictating what, you know, goes on, and there would be, you know, someone protesting against it, and that's the silliness of it. That's where we must, for ourselves, continually make good choices, and something as small as what's everyone watches movies, whether they're on an old channel or something. Choose the right ones.
And we were talking about it this morning during the opening. It's at least 50-50. Let's be happy at least 50% of the time, which changes our life pattern instead of being down all the time.
Correct. And I would say that I would set the goal to be happier more often than not.
I would agree.
I would, you know, to me, 50% is a little too low to shoot for.
you know, let's face it, really. Let me play the devil's advocate here. Happy is relative.
Correct.
It's a relative feeling.
Yes.
What one person feels and considers happy is so far beyond the comprehension of another person many times.
Correct.
So are we saying we must find the area for us?
Yes, and for some reason the word responsibility seems to be infiltrating today's conversation. If I determine what is happiness for myself, then I must be responsible
for keeping it.
Yes, and finding it and looking for it. Not the things I do to lift me up. Yes, there may be science behind some of the things I do, but there is a version of that same science that you can use. You know, like maybe gatherings is something an extrovert does, but having one friend over is something someone more introverted or more critically thinking.
Somebody may think happiness is going fishing.
Correct. Oh, whatever, and it's that the solitude. You know, that would be a reflective, a slowing down activity.
We need to know where our places are. If we're feeling depressed and down and out, we find that place that does bring whatever it is that.
And what I find that movies can help us do is when we forget, it can remind us what it can look like. Yes,
that took you there.
Yeah.
Or that song.
Because when you just mentioned, I just loved how you smiled when I just mentioned the name of the movie, because you remembered, you could probably watch that movie and 90% of it you honestly wouldn't remember, but it left you with that feeling.
It takes you back and it changes your attitude.
Correct.
It's just like songs. I mean, when I hear a song on the radio that takes me back, I know exactly where I've been, and a smile comes on my face.
And that's, you know, that is one of the ultimate tips. If we can get ourselves, whatever can make us smile, if it's petting an animal, watching a movie, listening to a song, that's what we have to get ourselves back to doing. Taking responsibility for what am I feeling and how do I elevate it if it needs elevating.
Again, you recommend people know the book?
Yeah, I recommend you ask the library. Go use this as a library. It's a tremendous resource. If you do know your natural strengths and you're trying to remember movies from the past, you know, this book will help you see what strengths you have as it looks in a character in a movie. And it will give you an opportunity to remind yourself, oh, that's what it can look like in this situation.
Thank you as always.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
All the best.
Yes.
The census.
Come back, it's head count time. You stay there.